All right, welcome back. Now, the International Monetary Fund during the week released a forecast on Nigeria warning that Africa's largest economy may contract by 1.8% this year and that the country may be heading towards a recession. Now, economists say a recession is a significant decline in activity across the economy lasting longer than a few months. Now, this decline is visible in industrial production, employment, real income, and wholesale retail trade. Now, the technical indicator of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth as measured by a country's gross domestic product, that's GDP. In the case of Nigeria, its GDP growth contracted to minus 0.36% in the first quarter of this year. That's the first quarter of 2016, compared to 2.11% in the fourth quarter of 2015 and 3.86% in the first quarter of 2015. Now, the GDP figure for the second quarter of 2016 is yet to be released, but several economists have already forecast that the economy is likely to contract again. Also, during the week, the central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, at a closed-door meeting with the Senate, said the country's economy is suffering from what he calls stagflation. That's a term for stagnation and inflation. Now, stagflation is when an economy has inflation combined with slow or stagnant economic growth, high rate of unemployment, and poor infrastructure. It's a situation accompanied by a decline in the GDP. The CBN governor, I should say, admits that it's a very trying time for the country and that Nigeria needs to spend its way out of recession. But the problem is that you need money to actually spend, and Nigeria hasn't got much at the moment. No thanks, of course, to the fall in the price of oil, which has seen government revenue shrink very badly. And as if that picture is not bad enough, during the week also, the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics released its latest inflation data, showing that inflation rate in the country is now at 16.5%. That's the highest in 10 years. We're waiting to see what action the Central Bank of Nigeria Monetary Policy Committee takes on that when it holds its next meeting. Joining me now to discuss this further is development economist and policy analyst Biodun Bolaji, I should say, Ogunsheye. So Ogunsheye, thank you very much for joining us on the program. It's surely a very difficult time for Nigeria. I mean, what do you make of this bad picture that we're seeing, this bad picture that is coming through? Not unexpected, you would say?
Number one, not unexpected. But I think for me the more fundamental issue is there's a part of me that has always wanted, I believe, developing countries or certain categories of developing countries to be measured by slightly different criteria, okay, and data of performance, rather than, recession, yes, 2 quarters, some actually say 3 quarters, consecutive quarters, or stagflation and all this. Because if you do those things, if you measure by all these things I've been hearing, you are measuring by the standards of countries whose economies are already anchored. They are
so we shouldn't be measuring by that, by the standards.
No, because the nature of our issue is you have not even built the house. You have not built the enterprise from which you can now say this enterprise is suffering at this time. I think those measures for me relate more directly, more logically, okay, to economies that are already anchored in industrial production.
You're talking like a typical development expert here.
Yes, sound. Now, so this is the problem. Look, even when Nigeria was growing, I can tell you, say about 10 years ago, up to about 3 years ago, when they said we were the model of growth, maybe not 10 years ago, about 8, 7 years ago.
You just would not see it in the lives of the people.
That's right. People were getting poorer. It didn't stop the phenomenon of poverty creation, poverty expansion, poverty deepening. It didn't stop. It wasn't inclusive. You didn't feel a sense of, hey, a lot of Nigerians are saying no, even when we were growing.
I'll
give you another example. Look at now what is happening to the dollar, to the naira. We say, oh, it's because our reserves have gone down, we're not making enough. But under Obasanjo, when we had about $70-something billion, in reserve. The Naira didn't strengthen. At most, it got very slowly downwards. But it was still going downwards. Even when we had serious reserves, when we were spending and making a lot of money. So you see, many of these things don't apply to, for instance, in Nigeria, I've always felt, and I've always known, if you know how to actually measure these economies, you know, I've always known that in Nigeria, the Naira, the strength or the weakness of the Naira is not only linked to dollar exchange rate with the Naira, but we are all hooked onto that. The entire, if you like, opinion machine in the Nigerian economy keeps saying, is the dollar, is the dollar. Well, that's just 50% of the story, or even 40. 60%, or at least 50% of what is killing the Naira is the existence of artificial inflation in the Nigerian economy. What you have in the Nigerian economy is not inflation responding only and solely to the forces of the market, of demand, supply, employment, you know, and things in the economy. You have about 40% which is coming from that source. The remaining 60% is coming from greed forces, speculation.
Are you in essence saying that we shouldn't take this warning, for instance, coming from the IMF and of course even the CBN governor as well, we shouldn't take them too seriously?
We should take them seriously, but we should put them within the context of this is how the economy has been moving anyway, all along. You understand?
Even when there were reports that we were having growth.
Yes, the Nigerian economy has been busy making more and more people poor for almost 2 decades. In some periods, the whole process is faster. It's accelerated more than other periods. But in secular terms, that is what has been happening. In secular terms, the economy has been increasing the scope of poverty. More and more people have been, you look at how many people have been pulled down from the middle class, various segments of the middle class, various layers of the middle class, and pulled down to struggling working class. How many graduates have gone from having some form of job into, you know, having to drive their taxi and everything. So the point, what we should be worried about are the structural issues with the Nigerian economy. The issues that will make the economy get it anchored in development, economic development.
Something
We're not developing economically.
Yeah, something I would just like to, you know, get your take on is the issue of, you know, the budget as well as the oil production levels. I mean, whether we like it or not, we know that the bulk of our revenue comes from oil. I mean, whether or not we like it. Yes. And we know the government is trying to diversify the economy, but then that, of course, will take time. It's not something that happens in one day. Now, you look at what is happening today in Nigeria. One of the reasons why we're having these negative statistics, of course, boils down to the fact that we're not getting as much as we used to get from oil. The price has gone down. And then, most importantly, our production level has gone down. Of course, no thanks to the activities of the militants in the Niger Delta region of the country. How do you think we can change this, especially dealing with this problem of militancy in the Niger Delta region of the country? How do you think we can resolve that now, at least, you know, for the short term? Nigeria needs to resolve that so that we, you know, our production level can go up and we can see more money come to the government.
Thank you. The Niger Delta oil production, gas production issue is obviously very important to the immediate. We have locked ourselves in a situation where always for our immediate survival, what do we eat tomorrow? It's like the woman who sells stuff on the roadside. 99% of them is what you sell today that will form your expense for survival tomorrow. And things. Nigerian economy has hooked itself in that situation structurally for a long time. So anytime we are in problems, it's always how much money can we get from oil now? Because it's, look, when we do our budget, we talk about this one, mineral, you know, solid minerals, all these things. But like you have said correctly, all the things you need to turn the economy around structurally with small s are not the things that would give you, release the money to you, the benefit in 2 or 3 years. Some of them will take up to 4 years. So always we are hooked in this situation where it's the oil money now that is the issue. But we should start now thinking of production, beyond production alone in the oil economy. You see, again, everybody talks in Nigeria about the production has gone up. It is that production throughout the Nigerian economy in all sectors, including the sectors that do not need to be started on the block fresh. Oh, there's no production. Look, there are a lot of areas right now that Nigerians are involved in business. They've tried to invest. As I speak with you, I have just been, a fourth one was just added last week. There are Nigerians who come from abroad. They collect their, I don't know what they call their code 104 or something, when you have been working. They collect money, they come here, the money comes to 100 million naira and things. After 3-4 years, tail behind legs, in between legs, they are running back. Some of them will borrow money for the ticket to go back after 6-7 years of bringing that money to invest. So we should make the environment friendly and conducive to a vast array of productions in other sectors. So yes, if the oil production is not good enough, they are breaking they are blowing up the pipelines and things. There are other areas of production in this economy. We do not even need to wait for the transformation of solid minerals, steel production, petrochemicals, and all of this. All those basic micro, mini, medium, meso production levels have got to be helped by the managers of this economy, so that whatever little they are producing, and it's not that little, if you know the amount, only that we don't even know, of production, or if you like, merchandising going on in the informal sector, you'll be amazed. But we don't even know. Nobody can tell me, for instance, what is the volume, rough, just approximate, volume of net transactions that happen in the Danfo sector in Lagos every day, every week. So, okay, this is the amount of money that changes hands between those who enter Danfo and those who run Danfo, in Okada, in this thing. We don't know those little things.
Absolutely.
And therefore, we don't even know how much we are losing by not trying to optimize production in those areas. I can think of so many other areas that don't even need the diversification before the diversification comes to amplify it.
In the immediate, do you think the government should negotiate with these militants, as quickly as possible, get a result, extract a commitment from them so that this bombing stop and then our production can go back to what they used to be?
Oh, definitely, yes. I think Yaradua was smart in that respect, although there are issues. I mean, look, I don't think Nigeria should be in a situation where it's simply, oh, the Niger Delta militants are making trouble there, give them more money. Oh, give them more money. I think
it would appear that's what we've been doing in the past.
That's right. There are more complex situations. I happen to know the Niger Delta very well. I worked in the area. I still do and do a number of things there. And I worked in an oil company. So I know, and I was dealing with community development, interface with militants and things. So I know what I'm talking about. Part of what is going to happen is that the federal government must step back 1 or 2 and take a look, a critical look at how much money is already going statutorily into that region through the political office holders, through the state government, through the Ministry of Niger Delta Development, through even the existing...
And quite a lot is going there.
Yes, existing amnesty. By the way, talking about probing or looking into things, it may help Buhari, although, again, I'm beginning to despair about this anti-corruption, because I think it's wasting too much time and effort that we should also devote to pushing economic development, because that's the issue, really. All the fight, all the noise is about economic development. The noise comes out in the form of political argument, but the source of it is the decline in economic development. It's because Nigeria is failing in economic development that the political problem is so hot.
So you would want, of course, the president to, the government to look, to take a holistic view, look at what is going,
derivation, 13% derivation, NDDC. NDDC collects a tax from all the major oil companies and minor oil companies throughout Nigeria that are 3% of their profits. NDDC has always collected this. Where is the impact of that money? There's Ministry of Niger Delta Development.
Of course,
they get billions and billions every year. Where is the impact of that money? Then, of course, you have amnesty. Then you have the oil companies. For whatever faults they might have or something,
they still do
they
things.
pour hundreds of billions of naira into that same region every 12
now,
months.
If all
Somebody
of this
needs to look at that and say, how
what has
efficiently
happened?
is this money working across the Niger, especially in communities? I think another thing, though, beyond just begging them, giving them, if you give them money, like we saw under Jonathan and under Yaradua, the money will end up with the major generals and the brigadier general and the field marshals, the heads of the militancy. They will leave the small guys. Maybe we need to now move beyond, we call it in Yoruba, making money sacrifices to others. Maybe we should now, seriously, something that is not even just for oil and gas. We should start looking at allowing communities, or if you like, clusters of communities in Niger Delta to actually also participate in the ownership of oil and gas fields and assets. So that it's not just
one of the things they're asking for.
We must do, we are crazy not to have done it, or we must do it. We must economically empower and allow communities to feel empowered. They know that this operation, that block, that oil block, that marginal field, especially marginal fields, get technical operators who is paid for delivering, okay, the production and everything. Just like Nigeria has an agreement with Shell and Mobil and Chevron and all of them. You take so much. No government in Nigeria knows how to produce oil. Many of the ministers don't know anything. But we get these people, they produce, but 70% of the money is ours. You can do that also with communities, especially all those blocks that you give to retired generals, that you give to some Lebanese brothers, that you give to some Chinese, you give to some senators, and all these things. Give them, if you still want, no problem, but take some percentage. Can you imagine all the acreages across the Niger Delta, the blocks, marginal, major fields, everything? If you reserve 30%, no, and that is even better than giving 13% derivation to governors. Giving this, they just do whatever they like with it. Can you imagine if you actually give oil blocks and let them have technical operators? We know the communities cannot produce the oil, just like the federal government cannot produce the oil. It's not different. Yeah, and I've always made that argument, that one way in Nigeria to let money spread around, the little money we have, because basically, in strict economic definition, Nigeria is a poor country. So you see, when they go and fight over allocation of poverty in Abuja, you just laugh. It's not serious. But the little we have can democratize its ownership more by making sure that it's not just a few billionaires who keep getting more oil blocks, who can get this, so they get the road contract, they get everything. We can actually, across the country, 774 local governments, we can create 774 holding companies in this country. For the youth, for the young people, for the unemployed, for the and give contracts, give things to those, and they won't do it themselves because the big men don't do it themselves.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. But
so
let me just quickly ask
issue.
you. Let me just quickly ask you,
yes.
and I want you to be very brief about it. What do you think this, the government should begin to do to get this economy up and running again?
Talk to the Niger Delta guys. Try to pipe them down so that at least whatever little money we're getting there, let it go on, number one. Number two, start immediately looking at the various streams of money going into that region, and let's rationalize it. And let's make sure that it's going to development of that region and human asset development and economic empowerment. Number three, look across the entire Nigeria system. Because look, poverty is not just in Niger Delta alone. Poverty is spread across the country. Yeah. How can we democratize the power of government to spend money, to buy services? How can we take it away from just a gang of about 50 or 100 billionaires and spread it to millions of people? Nigeria would do better with about 30 million ordinary millionaires who have 1 million, 1.5 million as a kind of direct government. We make them work for this money, or they own self, they collect dividends, and 30 million ordinary millionaires who take that money and go and do business, the economy will grow faster than creating 10 more billionaires from the existing billionaires. Do you understand? It is a reluctance, I believe, of the leadership class in this country to democratize access to the little wealth we have, most of which flows from and through government. Do you understand? So instead of government, state government, especially because the local government is just a theoretical thing now, the state governors have made sure local government doesn't exist anymore. Okay, in practical terms. They're just there in the constitution. State governments, at least, and federal government, in their expenditure pattern, they should expand the loop of those who make money through yearly budget spending. Okay, they should stop restricting it to their political friends, to the politicians, to the party leaders, to the chiefs and things, and look for smart ways, creative ways. Like, for example, I always say, create holding companies in each of the 774 local government.
All right, Mr. Agunshe, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you very much for your wonderful contributions. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decision.